Committee, April 19th, 2023, and it's just after 7 o'clock, about 7:04. We'll do a roll call, say your first name, say your full name, and say that you're here. Carolyn?
Carolyn Coffey here.
Mark?
Mark Cameron here.
Gert?
Garrett Lubitz here.
And Phil Lear here. Thank you. Couple of business items. I circulated some minutes from 4 different meetings. I hope you all had a chance to review those. I'd like to get those approved with a voice vote if we could. Are there any questions first on any of the minutes? Okay.
I'll move that we accept the 4 meetings worth of minutes.
Great. Just raise your hand if you approve. Thank you. Awesome.
Unanimous.
Who wants to be the second?
Second.
There we go.
Okay, and then PR update between Justin and Carolyn. Who wants to jump in on that?
I'll jump in, and then Justin, you feel free to amplify. We have updated the website. Justin and Tucker went through and took out some of the dated information and rearranged things so that hopefully they are front and center and accessible to people. We posted the FAQs that were updated today. We have renderings on there and the plans, and Justin has been working on videos with David Farag. They've got one up there with as is conditions, and they're going to talk about do another one with the upgrades that are planned, and then we're going to end up doing one after we have the cost information, to share that. And then we've planned a public forum for next Thursday, April 27th at the town hall. And I spoke with Jackie Dormitzer today, and the Historical Commission is going to attend that forum. So we know at least somebody will show up, which is great. And we've sent out a postcard that hopefully will hit mailboxes the end of this week, informing everyone of that, so that if everyone should know that that's coming. And I was thinking too, after receiving the anchor email today, that we might want to write a little article and put that in there as well. And that's what's going on our end. Justin, did I miss anything?
No, the only thing is I would suggest is if you draft something up for the anchor.
Yeah.
Did you get cut off, Justin? You're still there. Sound like you get cut off.
Yeah, it did sound like he got cut off. And now I don't hear him.
No. Carolyn, do you want to just mention an update or meeting with Jennifer Mullen?
We just met to talk about some of the financial questions that may come up, and make sure that we're prepared to answer them, and that we were all on the same page, so that hopefully things go as smoothly as they can in that regard, because it's a nearly full debt exclusion. They aren't trying to take debt service out of the operating budget. There are going to be fewer questions as to the impact on the town budget this time around than there were 5 years ago, because it'll just be paid for taxes if the voters so choose.
Right.
But we also talked about looking at what that tax impact was, and working with Jennifer to
Yeah, great. Just Jennifer is our new financial director.
Yeah.
For the town. Justin, you with us?
Sorry about that. I for some reason lost internet here at my place. Real quickly, I was just saying, once we have that drafted up, I'd be happy to send it to all of our local media out here, as well as the Ledger, Mariner, the Anchor, and a bunch of other local media here. So I'm happy to help out with that. So thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Great.
Justin. Phil O'Brien, I think, is in the audience there. He's our architect.
Great.
you-
I will promote him
Thank you.
right now. You got it.
And Tucker, I think, just came in as well.
Perfect.
And Carolyn, I will tell you that Steve and I know Jennifer from a past life. So we planned the documents that the spreadsheets we go through tonight, we're going to forward to her. Just, I'll get into them more in a minute, but the plan was after showing them to you guys tonight, giving them to her just to the summary so she can start to understand the number where it stands now. And as we move toward, closer and closer to D-Day.
Yeah,
Great.
we spoke last night or just late yesterday afternoon.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Good getting everybody on board.
One other thing there, we have that forum on the 27th at Town Hall. I was given a heads up, and it sounds like that's the same night and venue for the select board. No, for the
Select-
candidates. The candidates.
They moved to Wilcox Commons.
Okay.
Justin was on it, and they hadn't
Okay.
yet publicized, so they have moved to Wilcox Commons. It'll
Okay.
actually be a better venue for what they want to do anyway, so that worked out well, fortunately.
Great. Anything else on that? Thank you for the PR updates and so forth.
Mhm.
Bill, thank you for joining us. Just had a quick question for you. You had offered to do whatever at the town meeting for display or whatever. I know we did a little bit last time around. We did some big placards and someone stood outside of the auditorium or the gym where the meeting was held and was there for the public to see. Is that typically what's done, and what do you have to offer?
It's something like that is usually what we do. If they allow folks to set up, normally we'll end up, putting some images, plans, renderings on boards and we'll hang out there. And if anybody has a question, they could certainly ask, but most folks will just kind of come up and take a look. I'm happy to do it. It's sometimes folks are amazingly enough may have never even heard of it until the time they're showing up at town meeting. And I have been in a bunch of different towns and there's always a couple of folks that come up and say, "Oh, what's this?"
Sure.
So it's just a way to get the information out there and to answer any questions or to give people kind of a last minute look at what they're voting on. But I'm happy to do whatever you would like.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think a floor plan of Old Town Hall is very, very important there. I think one of the key items there is the bathrooms and the availability for functions that happen on the common.
Sure.
And I think that's a really strong point, beyond the nice looking building on the outside and everything that goes in it. So we'll plan on that and we'll hammer out some details as we go along.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
And Phil, when you were talking about floor plans, were you also thinking about renderings, interior renderings of the old town hall as well? I know that was something we had spoken with Natalie about, and I'm not sure if that has been relayed to you, Phil O'Brien now, but that was something that we had talked about. I think it was about a week ago. Carolyn, myself, and Tucker.
We talked about that, I believe, when we met in person in the auditorium.
Yes.
And we had said at that point that given the amount of time that we have, it may have been difficult for us to get something like that together. We didn't have any interior renderings of the existing building at the time. And it's my memory that, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, you weren't there, but the folks at Commodore had suggested that if we send them some information, they may be able to produce something like that. So that's what I have in my notes. And since then it's been off of my plate.
And they did provide a couple and Michelle has them. I don't know if there had been any feedback about those to go back to Jim, but I mean, I would assume that,
Those were interior renderings?
yeah.
Interior
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
auditorium showing events,
Okay.
simulated events is what
So
was
if you
forwarded.
send me a copy of those, I'm happy to put those on the boards with my other renderings.
Yeah, so I think that we should wait until Michelle gets back on Monday and then hit her with all of this. And we can talk about feedback on that. And Jim, I think maybe, a couple of them were a little dark, but I mean, thank you for the effort. I mean, obviously, but I think if they can be tweaked a little bit, they showed basically the place in a couple scenarios, one with a bunch of tables, one for like a shower and baby shower, and one for like some other community event. But the spaces kind of in the entryway looking in, they were really dark. So I don't know if they achieved what they were looking for, but I think that's probably easily fixed. But again, we will get those to you, Phil. I just think they're not fully baked yet.
Okay.
Great. Justin, you have your hand up. Do you mean to?
Just really quickly, we are meeting with the moderator on Tuesday. There's another committee who wants to do something similar. So we're just double checking with the moderator. I don't see an issue with it, but I will bring that up to the moderator that you all would like to have a table outside the gymnasium as well on Tuesday.
Perfect. Thank you very
Yep.
much.
Thank you very much.
Carolyn?
Just thinking about the public forum next Thursday. I don't know if John or Steve or Phil can be available to help with that, and Jim, in case there are questions that you guys are much more suited to answer than we are. But I just wanted to throw that out there.
And when does that happen?
It's at 7 o'clock on Thursday. We're doing, I think it's posted to be in person and hybrid. Is that right, Justin?
Yes, it should be.
We will get, somebody will be there from us. This is town meeting season. So there are some competing, we've got some competing conflicts, but we'll get somebody there.
Thank you. That would be great.
Thanks.
And do you need me to bring anything for that, or do you want to?
What do you think, Justin? And/or Tucker? And Gert? Anybody?
Oh, Tucker's here. Good.
I mean,
I think it would be really.
Go ahead,
I'm sorry.
Tucker.
I was going to say, and sorry guys, I'm not on camera. I will be. I'm still on my ride home from work. Late day. But I think it would be really nice if we could have some form of renderings, especially of the old space available. I don't know if we could have them printed up either on boards or something. I think that would be really nice to have.
Just a quick point. I know, Carolyn, you asked about whether the meeting was a hybrid or not. I just pulled up the agenda that's been posted. It actually looks like it's posted as just a Zoom meeting. Doesn't say any mention about town hall auditorium. So I don't know if that means we need to repost for next week.
I just have to amend that real quickly. That's on my list of things to do. I just pulled it up a second ago. That'll get amended in the morning. It'll take 10 minutes.
Thank you,
Perfect.
Justin.
Yeah,
Great.
not a problem.
Thank you. Great. Okay, anything else before we move on?
A quick question. And Carolyn, I'm sorry if I'm out on the loop on this, but the tour we were thinking about for that night, right, to do. I have not done any work on that. But is there something we need to do, or is David Farag working on that?
We should probably coordinate a PR team meeting and go through kind of how we're going to work that
Do the tour.
that whole evening and the tours and everything else. Talk about timing and everything. Maybe we can. Well, we're losing you, but yeah, we will work through that in a different forum. Thank you, Tucker. Thanks
Okay, great.
for reminding me. Yeah.
I think that's just our last thing for the forum is we want to get, if we could have some form of board. We had some of our folks here and we had some stuff for the tour. I think that closes us out on that issue.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Anything else? Okay. Drum roll, John, you're on.
Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do is kind of just run through the summary to start, show you where the GMP currently is. Not just the GMP is Commodore's portion of the budget. But again, that's just the construction line item of an overall more detailed total project budget. We've been dealing with kind of that 5-line summary, and I'll continue to show that for this sake of this discussion. But then I'm gonna go into a great spreadsheet that Commodore prepared for us to kind of show last time versus this time. Last time 2 months ago, just an estimate with construction documents. Now this time GMP with, draft GMP with bids in hand, certain bids in hand, and obviously a lot more understanding of the building now that they've had a chance to kind of dig into it, literally dig into it, both, inside, outside, and, behind kind of things. I think it's important to note that, anytime we talk about the GMP, until we sign it, it's kind of a living and breathing document. Why do I say that? A couple of days ago, we got the first GMP and it was like 21.8 million. Well, it's already 21.6 million because they got a new site number that was $200,000 less. I'll get into that more, but it's just to show you that, they're going to continue to work to get more bids and kind of pull things in. Well, you say, wait a minute, we already bid the trade numbers. Yeah, but that's just half of the costs really on the job. The non-trade stuff is bidding that's handled by Commodore directly. And they have the ability to go and continue to ask for numbers, continue to work with these folks. And then when they get those bids in, there's a process called leveling that takes place where, as an example, you take the site numbers and they compare them all and they try to make sure that we're comparing an apple to an apple to an apple, and then an orange doesn't sneak its way in there and kind of throw off the comparison between the, the different bids. So we'll get into that in a second too.
John, would you just explain trade and non-trade, please?
Yeah, sure. So
Thank you.
if the Commonwealth of Massachusetts dictates about 20, I think the numbers at last count was 21 different trades, which have to be bid in a CM at risk scenario, they're called trade bids. In a normal GC bid scenario, they're called filed sub bids. For whatever reason, the state in its wisdom said, let's call them two different things to really confuse people. But at the end of the day, they're your major subcontractors. Think HVAC, plumbing, fire protection, electrical, painting, tile. There's a series of those trade bids are bid separately in accordance with Mass General Law. They're spec'd out, they're advertised, all those things, and bids come in. There's really not a lot of negotiation allowed or buyout with those. However, there's an asterisk with that because we're in a situation where we can, but for the most part, those numbers are fixed. The non-trade is everything else: drywall, excavation, rough carpentry, finished carpentry, a series of other stuff. So the sum of trade bids plus non-trade bids plus Commodore's markups, their fees, their general conditions, their general requirements, bonds and insurance, all of those things added together create your guaranteed maximum price, which I am showing as one number on this budget summary we're going to put out there. So let me show you the summary. I'll show you the breakdown, and then we'll go back to the summary. But this, so let me share the screen here. Okay, can everybody see this?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let me go through this. I'm going to switch over to the detail, give Jim a minute to speak. Carolyn, I see what you're doing. I can
remember it.
I can send you this, it'll be easier. All right.
That would be great.
All right, so, and I'm not looking at you, I'm looking at the screen with the bigger numbers on it because I can't see anything as I get older. All right, so column D. This is where we were not a short time ago. Okay, this was the budget we had a couple months ago. This was when Commodore came in and did their estimate. Okay, we had also, done an idea of what the soft costs would be, OPM, design, and then contingencies. We were at 22.6 million. We took away the 1.4 appropriated to date, got us to 21,283. Got our CPC grant for $1 million. That puts us at 20,283,000. That's where we were. Here's where we are right now. Obviously, the GMP came in high. Okay. Well, why did it come in high? And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but I've kind of enumerated what some of the issues were. Right off the bat, the trade costs, all right, and we'll show the comparison in a minute. Trade, subcontractor costs overall were $2 million higher than expected. And Jim will talk about those ideas in a minute, or what caused that in a second. Just by having trade costs of over $2 million, the markups and general conditions and general requirements carried by Commodore automatically go up, because the majority of those things are percentages. They bid percentages based on a number, and if that bid number goes higher, their general liability cost goes up, the builder's risk goes up, all of their costs go up as cost of construction goes up. So a lot of that's in there too. There's also some things for latent conditions and holds. We all talked about that foundation last time, and those numbers are now in here as well. But that's kind of a broad brush, and we'll get into the details in a second. Well, what else changed? Well, it also included in the trade costs that went up was $300,000 worth of security and communications work that we were carrying as an owner cost, which we've now taken off of an owner supplied scope of work and because Commodore carried it in their GMP. So that's why this number was 1.1 million and now is 876. We took that money out because it's in the GMP. So now we were able to reduce that line item. OPM costs stay the same, design costs stay the same. Contingency. So we were able to reduce the contingency because we had been carrying 10% of 17 million. Okay, we were carrying 10% of 17 million, so 1.7 roughly for contingency on the project. But because we're able to go through the bid with Commodore and see that they've really put in holds and allowances for things, they've really thought through a lot of these things that can bite you on a renovation project. So why would I carry 10? I felt comfortable saying, you know what, they've identified a bunch of stuff. I'm okay carrying 5, but it's 5% now of a higher number. So, but bottom line is we're able to reduce the contingency by 400 grand. So basically, we started the discussion, a couple of days ago. We were at 21.8. That was another 200,000. So really, we were, just at around 4 million, at around 4 million. So this number has dropped by 7, but really, it's a few more than that because of the change in scope there that we were able to reduce from the site work. So 3 million over from where the budget was last time. So I'm going to stop here for a second and kind of we're going to go into a different sheet. And just to show you this for a second, this is a breakdown. This is a form put together by Commodore. If you look right here, this is the 17,808 that was carried last time. This is the 21,617 where we are now, okay? What is this? This is a breakdown of all of the different line items, okay? So again, last time, 17,808, this time, 21, almost 22. And what Commodore did is went through it and really looked at each item and said, here's the difference. Here's everything that changed. Happy to send this to everybody. In the end, there are things that are tagged as filed sub-bid. Those are the FSB. That's the trade bidders that we talked about earlier. So these are all of the folks that were bid.
You don't have to do that.
Huh?
I'm sorry, go right ahead.
Yeah, okay. No, so these are all the folks that we bid, separately a few weeks ago, elevator, fire suppression. And I'm highlighting these because these folks, you can see some, look in this column here. HVAC, $929,000 over budget. Electrical, $266,000 over budget. Fire suppression, $216,000. So right there alone is 1.4, 1.5 million, 1.6 million if you take those differences and add all of Commodore's markups to it that help explain that $3.8 million change. So a couple of things. In a couple of these instances, as an example, HVAC, we received one bid. We received one bid that's almost $1 million over. In checking with the Attorney General's office, the bid unit, we do have the flexibility to ask Commodore to go to the HVAC firm and ask to renegotiate. If they say no, we as the owner have the ability to reject that bid and ask Commodore to go out to bid to DCAM certified contractors, but no longer in that. If you remember, we pre-qualified, I think 5, and we got one bid. Okay, not great. All right, but for whatever reason, and Jim will talk a little bit, I'll ask him in a second about that. But the point is we still have a chance to work some of these other numbers down, but that work is going to be ongoing. Okay, so Jim, I'm going to turn it over to you for a second, and Jess, if you could talk to the committee about kind of the feedback you got from either trade or non-trade bidders, just subs in general, and what they were saying to you about the project, why they bid it, why they didn't bid it, the cost, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, thanks, John. So really, as we dug into this, we get great feedback on the front end from the subcontractor market, both trade and non-trade. Very great, it's a great project, interesting. It's got a kind of a mix of new and old. Really, really nice project. As they begin to dug into it, right, where this market, as you know, is booming. I don't have to tell anyone on this phone call. Unfortunately, some of these subs do have the ability at this point to kind of pick and choose where they go and what work they choose to pursue. Some of the feedback we got was around location was difficult for them. When you put it in a perspective on the location of the town of Cohasset and where a lot of these trades may or may not be coming from. And I'll just give you an example from one trade. We had 5 subcontractors ready to bid the wood framing package on this, which is a substantial portion of this. Unfortunately, a lot of the framing contractors come out of New Hampshire. And so as they dug into this, for example, they realized the actual location as they dug into this, and 3 of them decided to back out on their bids. So to date, we have one framing bid with a follow-up one coming here, right? Unfortunately, the non-trade packages have the ability to say, I'll get it to you when I get it to you. And so the feedback we're getting is a little bit about location, their ability to be able to pick and choose where they go, what jobs they want to pursue. I would say that, the good news is we're still, as John said, we're still pursuing numbers. We still have commitments from other vendors that just haven't got us their pricing yet. Millwork would be another one. There are 2 other millwork numbers that we're waiting on that have the potential to drive this number down. So I think the market in the way it is now and just how hot it is has allowed the subcontractor market to control this a little bit more than we like to. We've got great relationships, and but there's only so far that can go. It really comes down to a function of time. So I think we got the ability. We've got things captured here. We've got the high point. It's not good news on where you're standing today. I understand that. But we've certainly got the ability, and we'll be working hard to drive this number down.
Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, you also have the ability with, just for the committee's information, in a CM at risk situation for non-trade bids, you also have the ability to ask for, quote, best and finals. So when folks know that they're competing against each other, it's not just the bid number, it's after the buyout, if there's enough competition, they know they're against other people. And if they want the work, which again, if that means if you're bidding and hopefully you want it, you do have the ability to negotiate that right to the end.
You're exactly right. And we'll look to take kind of the holds and allowances that John had mentioned, really work those into kind of hard pricing and try to better that pricing that we've got held here. I think a lot came out of our exploratory efforts that came kind of post first budget, if you will, as we really dug in, as John said, to this building. It really did uncover, right, the problems of an old building, right? It's a beautiful old building. I had a lot of fun personally digging through that place. It's an amazing old building, but it's got problems, as you can imagine, the building of that age. So as it began to uncover, we've developed scope, and we'll look to tighten up that scope to be able to get better and more hard, definitive pricing as we move forward.
Thank you. So I guess I'm going to stop here for a second, because that's about 15 minutes of us talking at you, and see if you have any questions. Obviously, I'm happy to share both of these sheets moving forward. Again, these are in process, these are, they're live, right? So I'll send them to you, and it marks a moment in time. But to Jim's point, they're going to be working on this number right up until town meeting, try to be getting and driving the numbers down as best we can. Those things that can be negotiated will be. Those things that they have to rebid, as an example, that HVAC number, it's $1 million to you guys over right now. If CAM HVAC won't come down, and I bet you they're not going to come down $1 million, right? They probably know they know at this point they're the only bidder. What we'll try to do is a combination of Jim working with his in-house estimator, who again put a number together that was $1 million lower, and say, okay, let's call a few people that we know, get a rough order of magnitude from those folks to be able to say, okay, Cohasset, I can't give you a bid number for town meeting, but I know that I can take 400 grand off of that delta, so that we could bring that GMP number down, something that's comfortable, but not, not where we hope the bid is, because then if the bid doesn't come in there, we get burnt. To Jim's point, we want to keep dropping that ceiling comfortable amounts based on, either new bids in hand, or really good intel from, again, what we would be doing at that point is relying on their contacts with the HVAC subcontractors that they work on when they have a choice, when they have a chance to choose to use them. So this is where you're trying to get that value of having the CM to say, okay, we're never going to, maybe we don't get the $1 million back, but boy, if we could get half to 3/4 of it, that's wonderful, right? And then we're going to try to do that with a couple of other subs. We have to confirm with each of these. I like running it by the AG's office, but really what it comes down to, if you have 1 or 2 numbers, you apparently have the ability to do that negotiating with a trade bidder that you usually don't, when there's plenty of bidders. So that's a positive. So we have the big potential win with the HVAC. And then we have, again, the ongoing buyout of the non-trades and a best and final process that has only just started. So I will turn it over to folks for questions. You're muted, Wayne.
That's
Still
the best,
muted.
best we've heard of him. Wayne, you're muted.
Space bar.
Can't hear you.
Okay, Wayne's good.
Yeah, he's never sounded better.
Still don't hear you. Actually, hang on. Let me see if I can. Justin, can you unmute Wayne from your control?
Yeah, let me see if I can do that. Stand by.
Really, Wayne, we did not do this on purpose.
Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
There we
can hear
go.
you now.
Okay, great. I have a question. It's like the windows going up $300,000 from the budget thing to final pricing. Is there still confusion as to how many of what windows needed to be purchased? Because when I looked at the different correspondence that was going by, some said, there was a question, of course, that the bidders were, I guess, asking. So
So it's a, no, it's a really good question. I think at the end of the day, after talking to Commodore today, and Jim, I'll let you jump in if I don't answer this correctly. I think at the end of the day, the quotes were just higher for what's out there. You know, basically quotes were higher. Base bid includes removal of the existing sash and returning them to the town, and then replacement of all, you know, new building gets new windows, old building gets new replacement windows, and that's in the base bid. There was an alternate that was submitted to restore the sash. So forget so new building gets new windows, old building gets restored windows and gets interior mounted storms and all of that. That number that came in didn't credit out, and that's why we haven't listed it, because it's incomplete, didn't credit out the cost of providing the replacement windows. So basically we had a cost from a couple of the guys for 300 or 400 grand, or, you know, you see 600 grand, and then an ad for another 400 grand. And it's like, wait a minute, something's wrong here. They didn't credit out the new windows for the historical building. So there will be another number if the choice is to go and restore. It's probably going to add money to the project, probably 150 to 200,000 to do that restoration of all the historical sash. So the number's high. I think it's just you know, it's a state of the market. They have two numbers and they're pretty close. So, oh, we lost them. We have two window numbers and they're pretty close. So I think at this point we feel like they understand the scope. Any other questions while Wayne comes back? So I guess my thought, guys, would be that we provide this spreadsheet right here with the breakdown of what happened to the number, you know, in a PDF format, so that we can, you know, it'll present better. And then we provide this as the kind of where we are. Now, again, this breakdown has this very detailed estimate behind it for all of the soft costs and all of that. Again, I think we rolled all of that up and together. So I don't think anybody needs to see it unless you guys want to share it, because we've been going with this kind of format all along. I just think stay consistent, because if someone looks at the old presentation, they see that, you know, and then now we're just updating it with this column.
Do we have a summary of the allowances where we still feel we have exposures from a scope perspective?
Not beyond, you know, like if you were to show, like if I were to show you this, you know, in here, I would tell you that, like on this line item down here, or not this, I'm sorry, this design contingency right here, I would tell you that in this line item is where we would carry the undesigned work for the TV studio, you know, kind of that work. So that's covered. I think that there are concerns. I think we talked a little bit about the potential asbestos dirt in the crawl space, but that to me is why you have, you know, that's why I've got $1 million in the total project budget for construction contingency, for, you know, kind of for unexpecteds. And then there is a question about under the stage, maybe a little bit of framing under the stage itself, but they haven't gone under there yet. But to me, any of those things, you know, could be covered by the $1 million. I mean, before I left today, I asked Phil and company and Jim and company, I said, what's still out there? What scares you? And that was the list. It was really 2 or 3 things of what ifs. With everything else, I think, you know, aside from a truly latent underground, don't anticipate it, I think they both feel pretty good about, you know, what we've got covered. And again, just for edification, you know, you've got in this budget $1.5 million of contingency. Inside this GMP, you have another 600,000. There's $2 million right there. And then within the GMP itself, there's also some holds and allowances, probably another few $100,000. There's, you know, included in there's let me go there and show you. You know, there's $1 million in holds, but some of this money, this isn't all contingency, right? We've got 400,000 to deal with the shoring of the old foundation, you know, and kind of that. So that's, we know we're going to spend a good chunk of that. So that's not contingency. But if, you know, maybe half of this million, or maybe a third of its allowance, so there's probably another $200,000-300,000 in allowance money, you know, kind of carried in the GMP that we would.
But to me, an allowance is still a risk because it doesn't have a
Oh, yeah.
cap to it.
Yeah, so I mean,
Right? At least a hold has a cap to it. But the allowance is really, it could be anything, even though we have X amount earmarked for it. If we have an unpleasant surprise, it's still a risk for the town of Cohasset.
that's
So
no,
knowing
totally
what
true.
knowing what categories and what specific lines constitute the allowances, be curious
So
to know which one is an allowance, and more, I'm more thinking of the allowances versus a hold. A
Yeah, I
hold to
mean-
me
I
is
mean-
something that Commodore would be managing within their control.
I will tell you, Mark, that the backup to the GMP has them all broken out. Jim, could we ask you to create 2 columns, so one for holds and one for allowances?
Yes,
Just
not a problem.
just to answer that question. I mean, that's easy, Mark. I know we
Great,
have.
thank you.
Yep. So guys, just for everyone, it probably bears a good point. We're talking about holds and allowances. What are they? So basically, there's scope of work that are bid, right? And that stuff is defined. There's scopes of work that are not specifically defined, but you know you should have money for them. Okay, as an example, cutting and patching, right? So in the drywall spec, you know, you've got a, you know, as an example, and, you know, Mark or Jim, you know, cut me off if I'm speaking incorrectly. You know, you've got $841,000 of drywall, but at the end of the day, you know, we've got an additional $36,000 included in that number for holds. Let's say it's all holds. Cutting and patching. We know that no matter what's in the specs for drywall that needs to be put up, there are going to be other holes and things that are going to need to be cut open. And if they're cut open, they're going to need to be patched. So where does that money come from? Well, let's carry a hold for it, because we know we should carry money for cutting and patching. We know it's going to happen. Differently, there's an allowance. So allowances are for things that you're not sure will happen, but let's put some money aside just in case. To Mark's point, allowances, you give your best estimate, like ledge, okay? You know, we've quantified a certain amount of possible numbers for ledge, but if you encounter more ledge than what's there, to Mark's point, we're on the hook for it. You know, if Jim carries 100 yards of ledge in his number, but encounters 150, we owe him for the 50 above the 100. So that's to Mark's point. So understanding kind of what column those things are is good from a risk mitigation. But on top of that, holds and allowance discussion aside, you've got about $2 million of contingency, 600 within the GMP. The Jim has to ask before he uses, but it's under his control. He doesn't use it, comes back to Cohasset in the end, and about $1.4 million, the way it's calculated right now, between the hard and soft cost contingency that we've put on as part of the total project budget. So there's really a couple $1 million in this overall project budget that is for what ifs right now. Make sense? Somebody say something. No. Okay, smile. I'll take a smile. That works.
There you go. Any questions for John or Jim on this?
So what I would do then, Phil, is I will take these, we'll send these to Jennifer, as we said. I will PDF these with, with a note. I'll add a couple notes that just said, this is, as we understand it, as of the night of April 19th, understanding that the team is still working to maximize savings and buy out where we can.
Sounds good.
So I would just make sure that, I'll give them to you to issue. I know you talked about having a meeting tomorrow night. My thought is we get a new, I see where we are on Monday and ask Jim, before we go into the meetings of next week. I don't know if this is something you want to share with Capital right now. And if we do, we'll memorialize it and you send it off. Or do you want to wait and see if we have an update we can share with them, for the Monday meeting?
I think if we can get an update Monday before Monday night's meeting, that'd be great.
Okay, in case a couple more numbers come in, Jim. Especially that drywall framing package. It's a sizable package, so chance for savings.
In particular, if they do move down, it just shows it's a moving target, and we've been monitoring day to day as opposed to going a week or whatever. So okay, sounds great.
Justin, I think Wayne's back in the waiting room, if we can let him back in.
He should be popping up in a second.
Thank you.
There we go.
So one question I know we're going to get from capital budget is when we met with them back in, what was it, November, December, we showed them a number that was a little bit less than $19 million for this project. We're now at 24.5. I'm just trying to get ahead of this and to understand how I know some of it was that there was, slightly different scope of work for some of the foundations and things like that, structural work. But we're still at a number that's now, about $6 million more than where we were back in the fall, which I know there's been some inflation, but I mean, that's off by like almost 30%, call it, right? And that's just a huge number.
Well,
how do we get to that? Like, how do we reconcile being off by that much in the span of 6 months?
Okay, so kind of anticipating the question a little bit, right? These are the number you're saying, Garrett. I'm not entirely sure exactly where that bottom line number is you're coming to, but everything that I'd like to look back in the presentation that was used, but regardless, let's just, for the sake of the sake of your question, let's assume these numbers match what was there, okay, before.
Yeah, and I could have been, I'm sure I was off on I was asking.
Yeah, no worries at all. The reality is, okay, is we relied on an estimate from November of 21, okay, to try and generate these projections right here, okay, escalating it with what we thought, okay, and obviously wasn't enough to catch up with the market. Again, in fairness to this whole group, right? We wanted to be doing this with Commodore a hell of a lot sooner than we were authorized to go. Okay, we had a CM RFP ready to go in June of last year, but held it off because we didn't get a buy off on the schedule. Couldn't get a buy off on the schedule, so couldn't issue the RFP. All right. So we had bad info. We had bad info, bottom line. The number we had 2 months ago, okay, that came from Commodore, all right? And that's their estimating department. And that number, the market, the 3.8 million, 2+ of it is market pricing right off the bat, plus markups. So the majority of that difference is really subcosts. It's really just sub costs. The issue, Garrett, in the basement is probably worth $500,000. Okay, all in, all markup. The rest of it is just pricing. And I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but there really isn't that much different to this. It just costs more. The market doesn't like the job. The marketplace doesn't like the job, bottom line. While it may be a cool job, you know, construction geeks like Jim and I, like, it's a cool job to do because when it's done, it's very satisfying. It's not an easy job, right? It's not an easy build. It's not a clean build. You know, if you were advertising a similar square foot brand new building on 3A, it wouldn't be $900 a square foot. It would be something less. And I think that's the case. I mean, that's bottom line is, you know, this spreadsheet from Commodore really kind of shows the differences, right? This is what they estimated, and this is what it came in. Why? You know, some things were additional scope that was found, but for the most part, it really was just higher prices. $1 million on one sub, you know?
Yeah. Now, is that more because it's a renovation of a historic building? Is it because we're located in Cohasset? I guess I'm curious what you're seeing in the marketplace for similar projects.
Well, it's funny. It's a great question, because I would tell you that you know, and Steve can jump in, and maybe Jim, our last 3 projects that we bid, not CM at risk, I mean, doesn't matter, but still public bidding. We found that the bids, the last estimate done for trade/pilot sub bids held. Didn't say it, you know, wasn't over, wasn't under, was kind of right at. And in this case, it's way over. And I think to Jim's comments, it's not I want to say it's not a desirable job. I don't want to misconstrue, like, people, oh, you know, no one wants to work here. It's a harder project. It's a harder project.
It's got a reputation, is what you're saying?
No, not at all. It's a harder project in a town that's harder to get to. We've seen similar things when we've bid jobs in, like, Situate. You know, we've seen similar things when we've bid jobs like when we bid work, you know, out in
Marblehead.
Yeah, 25, 30 minutes off of Route 90. Like, it's just, people like proximity. The jobs that get the best pricing are usually right off of 95, right off of 495. And the further away that you have to go, it's a cost, right? Because you know how long it takes to get to the city. So if somebody has to build that pay into their guys, right, or the cost or delivery and that sort of thing, you do see that. Now, I will say that the HVAC is clearly a situation in my mind where someone took a flyer at this. There is no way that I guarantee you that if we got Cam's numbers for estimating, he didn't throw just a big bunch of money at it and say, I really don't want that job, but if I get it, awesome, I'm going to make a ton of money. There's no way that Jim's estimate is off by $1 million. No way. You know, and so that's just someone taking a flyer at it. But I do think you see overall, you know, looking at this comparison sheet, it's a lot of numbers that just came in higher. And that's the reality.
The last jobs that I've been involved in, they were all new ground up. There was multiple bidders in all the categories. And we even got an elevator bid. You know, and they Route 140, Route 123, another one on 140. You know, they're
minutes off the main
off
drag.
of 495.
Yeah.
You know, that is a factor, but they were also, you know, they were easy builds. You know,
Okay.
minor demolition or new property. You know, clear the land and build the building. So.
One quick question, Mark. I see you have your hand up, but I just was curious, Jim, if in any of the feedback that you got as part of this process, were there any concerns from vendors about sort of the future of this project, given some of the feedback that we've received from the select board? Was that raised by anybody? I know that we were concerned about, potential impact that would have on the bidding process. Was that something that, surfaced at all from what you've been able to see and perhaps, led to this price being where it is?
If that was an issue with any of the trades, it did not make it to us. We didn't hear any feedback saying that, no.
Okay.
One question I had was, do we think we'd have a better outcome on framing if we had some more traditional light gauge framing versus wood framing?
Don't say it, Jim. Jim's gonna say, I told you so.
We talked about that, right? Just going back and forth between the exercises as a possibility, Mark. I think from a timing standpoint, it really doesn't lend itself to be able to do that. Now, we're getting a lot of folks coming up from the Cape. It is funny to listen to people talk about the town of Cohasset. I love Cohasset and I know where it is, but people who don't, they say, well, I'm not going to work in the Cape, and they think it's on the Cape for some reason. So, but anyways, we did pull a lot of trades coming up from Cape Cod, surprisingly enough. A lot of the bigger South Shore, Robert Auer, for example, is a site guy the one that came in late. The biggest site contractor on Cape Cod that wants to come to this job. So it's drumming up interest for sure. We debated many options as possibilities, and we'll continue to think of ideas in the coming weeks, right? As we paw through these things, we'll continue to work with John and Phil and the consultants to offer ideas to potentially, lend some value engineering.
Do you see any value in terms of elongating the procurement here and trying to capitalize on Commodore's efforts here in the design, trying to come up with better design enhancements, maybe, something like the metal gauge framing, if we were to get more time here before we had to actually start building?
It really
is that
changes
kind of a moot point at this?
It's kind of a moot point, Mark. I think the design, it's not just a matter of swapping that out. It's a major structural component that needs to get reworked, right? You got wood trusses above that are being carried by wood studs that are carrying down to the, the infrastructure of the building or the podium. It's a major change in design that would need to happen. It's not that simple. And quite frankly, I think what I've learned is in an effort to try to do things like that, the market is not slowing, right? The market continues to boom. The market continues to escalate at a slower pace, right? The escalation has truly come down, but the market conditions continue to bear that. The longer you wait, the more money it is. I hate to say it, but that's what we're living in right now.
I do think, Mark, you bring up a good point, and I think, and Jim talked about this today. We're approaching a point where, as of next week, right, we had that was our target for the end of pre-con, and then Commodore wait. Given the stuff that was found, I think it behooves folks that we keep Jim working, even if it's at the cost of some additional pre-con, right? We only bought him for a period of time. That period of time is ending, but we have the funding, based on prior to the last appropriation, to keep going, so that we, assuming a successful town meeting and assuming a successful vote, you would have a GMP that's close to be able to ready to execute at a month from now. There's still a lot of work to be finalized, right? Right now, there's a hold in this budget for $406,000 roughly to talk about the foundation. That's not designed yet. Basically, Keller Foundation would need to, it's kind of a design assist thing, right? Or delegated design, right? They need to say what they're going to do to hold the building up, and then that's got to go to Phil's team and say yes. That process we would recommend that process keep going, and then that this buyout efforts continue, and that you go ahead, and if CAM HVAC doesn't work out, they go and put it out to bid, so that by the time we get to town meeting, we probably won't have the bid in time for town meeting, but by the time of the vote, we're close enough that all these things that are maybes, we know what they are. right? And we're getting closer and closer so that, you know, with a 514, yes, there could be a 521 execution of a GMP document, kind of all, you know, kind of all worked out.
Yeah, I would agree to keep them on board and keep them going, so we're ready to hit the pavement if all goes well.
Yep. And I can work with Michelle on that. That's just a, you know, that's just an amendment to their, you know, existing contract.
I think we're in a position that the people that are making the decisions about this, the capital budgets committee and even the select board, as they get closer to town meeting, and they have not given their opinion to the, you know, they're not going to give their decisions on whether they are for it or against it until we get to town meeting. And so I'm a little afraid that as the price has gone up now and stuff, it's just gonna, you know, more people are gonna say, wait a minute, this isn't gonna work out too well. I did have a question that I forgot, which, well, I guess it was, is there any money in these projections for us to pay our relocation costs and all that, or that's all outside of it? Or do you
No,
have
that's not in Commodore's number, but it's in our budget. So we've got a couple $100,000 in there, Wayne, for temporary, and I've worked with Michelle based on her plan that she's kind of put together to relocate. It's more than enough money to do that, and we've got money in there for a couple of moves, you know, to, you know, move out and move back. So so yeah, we've tried to cover all of those soft costs in that total project budget.
Okay, because I had a talk with Phil today about the suggestion of potentially renting some space from the church next door that has vacant classrooms and stuff like that. That could be, you know.
I think Michelle's approach was that there wasn't going to be any one place that could house everybody, and that saw a few, you know, a third of the people going here, a third going there, a third going there. And if that's an option, we still have time to do that, because otherwise we would be, I think she's fairly confident that we have the room to do that. But I would say on Monday, when she's back Monday, definitely throw that out to her, because she's, when she said we're not going out to the market on this, she basically said, I got this. So, you know, if there's another place, that's great. And if there's an added cost we need to put in there, you know, we'll make sure that we do so.
Yeah, I heard that one of the individuals is up to about $1 million they wanted.
It was gross. It was gross. I'm like, that's not gonna. We don't have the money for that. Nope.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so Phil, I would suggest I'll finalize this. I'll copy you, you know, get it. I'll send it to you so you can disseminate it to the committee so we don't break any open meeting rules. And then I'll send this stuff to Jennifer as well. And, you know, you let us know what you need, if anything, for tomorrow night. And we will plan on, you know, I'll plan on connecting with Jim on Monday, probably Friday afternoon, just so, you know, see what, if anything else has come in for those other bids, to see if there's a substantive change to this document for capital budget. Otherwise, we go with what's printed here with, you know, with the acknowledgement that we're still working on multiple fronts to try to push the number down.
So we shouldn't really discuss this as a final number or anything like that.
No, but Wayne, it's good. It's a good order of magnitude, right? I mean, I think at best, we could pull another $1 million out of this at best. You know, that's with working through a series of subs, and you know,
not by town meeting, John, right?
I would hope, Garrett, that we could, yeah, but at least by town meeting. Have a comfort level, you know, of it, like maybe not a bid, but like use the HVAC as an example. Maybe not a bid in hand, but enough of a feeling from Commodore's HVAC folks who've spoken to a couple of bidders who have a rough familiarity that, yeah, listen, if you had 1.7 million, I'm fine with you with carrying 2.2. We should be able to get it done. It's not a bid in hand, but it would allow me right off the bat to take $500,000 off of this GMP, projected GMP, you know, and, you know, I would want to get that in writing from Commodore, but, you know, and then hopefully there's some money in, you know, this framing package. I mean, let's say $500,000 to $1 million more is probably a better statement. I think that range is doable beyond what's here. Why you're laughing.
No, every bit helps at this point.
I'm like, what? You don't believe me? I'm just gonna blame Jim if it doesn't work anyway, so.
Well, I guess
Yeah.
the only reason why I would be skeptical is every time I see the number, they go up. So I'm not used to this notion that the numbers can go down.
Well, this is finally actually bids, so now it's negotiation. That's what we're in now, so, you know, barring finding
the
something,
screws.
barring finding some whammy we don't know about, you know, that drives us the other way. Now this is an exercise in buyout now.
Yeah.
Well, in the end, can't we just tell Jim, you gotta take $1.5 million, Commodore's just
Nah, it doesn't.
experience.
You can tell him whatever you want, Wayne, but I don't know if he's gonna do it.
So much. Okay, the,
Afraid to ask.
yeah.
All good.
So the plan is, as John mentioned, what's gonna happen, he's gonna update us before Monday night's meeting. We'll touch base sometime Monday, I would suspect, before the meeting to see how that changes one way or another. Tomorrow night, we have a meeting planned for the Town Hall Building Committee. John is planning to attend on that, and that's just to rehash what we've gone over tonight and sort of make sure that we're ready for Monday night's meeting with Capital. And basically, go ahead, Mark.
Is there anybody that cannot attend tomorrow?
Thank you.
Now, this is gonna be just like we are today, meaning
Yeah, but it you know, because I would say we gotta, you know,
at
just,
7 o'clock.
yes.
Was that on the calendar?
It's on the,
It's
it's on
posted.
the town, it's on the town website calendar. Yeah.
Okay. So we didn't get an invitation though.
I don't think
from
you,
Michelle.
I don't think you did. No,
All right.
it wasn't included in Michelle's
Yeah,
list.
because it's not in my calendar either.
But
I
this
think
is-
this one was posted, Garrett, to replace the one that got canceled on Monday because of Patriots Day.
Yeah. Okay.
So is it gonna be any difference tomorrow night than it is tonight?
We'll let you, we'll take the mute off of your microphone.
Been off all night.
Do you need me tomorrow night, Phil?
I don't think so. I think we're just having John in to answer any of the budget questions. That's mostly what we're gonna be rehashing tomorrow night. Just a chance for us to talk among ourselves.
And then I've got invitations for Monday at 7 and Wednesday at 7.
Correct.
And
Monday is capital. Wednesday-
Tuesday's select board, so. I don't know if,
I heard from Steve that it might be a meeting every single night next week, but I'm
I think there is.
assuming you come to
Monday,
all
Tuesday,
of them.
Wednesday, Thursday, every night except Friday.
Just for clarity, yeah, so we do have a meeting Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night next week. Just so everybody's aware.
I can't afford to live in Cohasset, so, and I'd have to move down there if you needed me there every night.
Are
I'm
you
assuming
saying our
you-
location is less than optimal?
No, I-
Recurring theme.
only what I can afford, Mark.
I think.
So I'm trying to nail down which of those meetings you'd like me
Yeah.
for. I'm planning on coming Thursday. I'd like to know which other meetings you'd
That's
like
probably,
us at.
that's probably the most important.
Was the capital budget one, that's some of those are remote also though, I think too, right? They're not
Yeah,
all
they're-
in
They're
person.
all also remote, I believe.
Yeah.
Actually just closed the.
So why
page.
don't we do this, guys? This is a good topic for tomorrow's meeting without these guys. No, seriously, let's lay out what the meetings are tomorrow and which ones we think we need folks at. And I think that's a good item.
Okay.
Because I would, yeah.
Between
I
now
would
and
just
Like the
imagine
Monday,
that,
like the Monday night posted meeting is really about the it's not a town hall building committee meeting, right? It's a capital budget meeting. The town hall building committee is going to be presenting at, right?
Exactly.
Right.
correct, and we have it posted in case we want to, in case we have a quorum there.
But in case you have the people there, okay.
It's gonna be sharing the information that we've got here.
Yeah.
So that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday is the community outreach meeting where we're sharing this with the community.
So Monday's capital, what's Tuesday, what's Wednesday right now?
Tuesday is select board and Wednesday is advisory. And Justin has his hand up.
Justin, go ahead.
Real quickly, Tucker, are you here tomorrow night for the meeting?
I'm not. Thank you
Okay.
for, I was trying to get in.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out
I will
who's
do
gonna be
my
here.
best. My flight's at 8:30. But it's an international flight, so I don't know what I'll be
Okay.
in, but I will try to get in if I can, but I don't know if I will be, but I will try.
Mark or Mr. Lubitz, are either of you comfortable with Zoom if I have to hand the reins over for about 15 minutes during the meeting tomorrow night?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, Okay.
Yeah, I think I can figure it out,
okay,
hopefully.
all right. I
I'll
may
just
be
have to
driving
make sure I
back
know
from-
how to mute Wayne.
Okay.
I'm always muted.
Wonderful. I may be driving back from a veterinary appointment at 7, but I should be back by 7:15.
Well, it's hard to get back to Cohasset, so take your time.
Okay, we good?
Motion to adjourn?
Anything else? Any other questions? Anything else?
Carolyn is around?
No, no, I'll have to reach out to Carolyn.
Carolyn's in another meeting.
Okay.
No, but is she around tomorrow?
Oh, as far as I know, yes, she was planning on it. Yes, just tonight was a conflict.
Okay.
I will accept a motion to adjourn if that's
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much for your
everyone.
time.
All right,
Good
Thanks,
night.
guys.
Thank you all. Have a good
Yeah.
night.
thank you.
Good night.